Welcome to Arizona Bill Watch, the show where you get satisfaction if you're not getting it from your state legislators. We report and comment on what happens at the state legislature and alert you on what is coming up next. And now, Arizona Bill Watch.
Hello everyone, welcome to Arizona Bill Watch for another lively discussion of important and controversial bills. I am your host, Jose Borrajero. Thank you for watching. There is a lot going on at the Capitol these days, so stay tuned because we have a fantastic show for you today. But before we do that, some housekeeping items. Number one, we would love for you to watch the whole show from beginning to end. However, you may also fast forward to the bills of your choice by using the handy chart that we have placed down below. Secondly, if you like what you see, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Third, it costs money to do what we do. So if you like what you see, you may contribute by going to our website, azpeopleslobbyist.com. So with all that out of the way, let's look at the first bill. Hello everyone, I am here with co-hosts Archie Dixon and Gloria Fox.
Good afternoon.
And today we're going to have a little different show because it is a very weird week for the legislature. What happens is that we are at about the point where the bills that were successful in the House will move to the Senate and start the process all over again. And the bills that were in the Senate, originated in the Senate, now, and were successful, move to the House and start the process all over again. However, there is 1 week in between when there's no committee hearings other than appropriations, okay? And that's exactly what's going to be happening next week. The only committee that's going to have any hearings would be the two appropriations committees, one in the House and one in the Senate. So,
And maybe you should say what that means.
yes, what that means, the appropriations committee hearings only bills that have to do with appropriations. In other words, if there's money involved, the bill has to go through the appropriations committee. So what happens is that any bill that goes through that committee now is a bill that successfully cleared another committee. Education, government, election, whatever. So as it happens, any bill that's going to be heard next week that was part of what we are tracking, it's a bill that we already discussed. So that's why we're not going to do it again. We've already done it. So we will be talking a little bit about bills that are kind of silly. And it's going to be a fun thing because these are horrible bills, some of them. Okay, but folks, they are serious. I mean, these were bills that were actually introduced. And the proponent, the sponsor of the bill, took it seriously. So we'll have a little fun with this.
Mm-hmm. And these are serious subjects too.
Yeah, it's just yeah. That they're so stupid.
Yeah.
House Bill HB 2304, voting locations, precinct-based. This bill is introduced by Representative McCarr, and it mandates that all voting locations be precinct-based. Now, on the face of it, I think all three of us agree that it's much better to have precinct-based voting locations than these locations where you can go vote all over the county. Even though it's not as convenient, it's a lot easier to maintain control and see what's happening. But the bill itself is it's not very well written, is it?
No, it isn't.
Archie,
I think the bill's well written. I you know, it is so funny though. But you know, in the past, I've always said that it's up to the legislative council to talk to these legislators when they're introducing bills and let them know when there's going to be a problem with them. Now, this one I would like to point out. I have the legislative printout here, And it says the Board of Supervisors may authorize the use of voting centers. But if you go to the bill, it says the county may not use voting centers. So now we need to have the legislators educate the legislative council. So
Yes.
yeah. The bill could be a little better, but legislative council's got to get their act together here somewhere, sometime.
Okay. So if we ever get people to agree that it's a good thing to go back to the old system where you voted in your precinct, and not everybody's in favor of that, obviously, but that we would be in favor of. It's just that this is not the best bill to advance that.
Yes, I agree.
House Bill HB 2351. Short title, Conversion Therapy Prohibition Minors. This was introduced by Representative Contreras, and basically, according to the description, it is an act of unprofessional conduct for a healthcare professional to provide conversion therapy to a patient or client who is under 18 years of age. As far as it goes, that's pretty good, right?
Yep.
That part,
The only problem is when you get to the exceptions.
yes.
Yep.
Yep.
See, and folks, this is something to be aware of, because this is not the only time that this happens. You would have a legislative bill that says something that is really good, okay? Just like, okay, you cannot do conversion therapy on a child or underage individual. That's a good thing. But then they go on to the exclusions and the exceptions, and it just kills the whole thing.
Yes, it does.
So it makes it look like you're doing something good when you're really doing something bad.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happening here. Which, of course, it's not limited to Democrats, but they've mastered the art much better than the Republicans have. So I don't know. Do you guys agree with that assessment?
I totally agree. It does not include a practice or treatment that does not seek to change a patient's or client's sexual orientation or gender identity, and that meets any of the following: respect to sexual orientation or gender identity. It just goes on to say nothing. It doesn't even address it.
I like the part that says, if you're a priest. Now, how many priests are also surgeons?
Right.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I noticed about it is that the exceptions, and I find this kind of interesting actually, the exceptions gives all of these, the professional healthcare providers a way to find a way around the prohibitions that's contained in the first portion of the bill. But what I liken it to, do you remember, several years ago we came up with an initiative that provided term limits for our members of our legislature, and all they did was find ways around it. So this is just like the legislators finding ways around it. Now the doctors get to find a way around it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, fortunately, this bill doesn't seem to be going very far. So,
And I hope it doesn't.
House Bill HB 2417. Short title, HOV lane pregnant drivers. Okay, so let me read the. Come on, guys. This is a serious bill, okay? Believe it or not, it is serious.
I have a very big opinion on this one.
Okay. It was introduced by Representative Crest, and it reads in part, for the purposes of this subsection, a pregnant woman qualifies as two persons and shall not be cited for a violation of this section if the pregnant woman or the pregnant woman's healthcare professional submits documentation to the department confirming the pregnancy. So now you have a pregnant woman. Somebody has to submit documentation that this woman is pregnant. So if she gets pulled over by driving single on an HOV lane, she will not be cited. because she's considered to have two people in the car when she has a fetus as well as herself. Now, my take on this, if we were to take this thing seriously, I would say that it is an effort by Mr. Gress to establish the fact that an unborn baby is in fact a person, and to that extent, that makes sense. But I think there's better ways to go about making that point.
Well, I do also, and in my opinion, and I remember this was a case in Texas, I believe, where the woman got stopped and the whole lawsuit thing or court thing. The purpose of an HOV lane is to help with the traffic during rush hour. In my opinion, this bill, if that was the purpose of it, should say no less, or something to the effect that no less than 2 seats should be occupied. End of story. And then whatever other little, but 2 seats or more need to be occupied. End of story. I'm sorry, a pregnant woman, I'm a woman, I would have never thought myself to be in the HOV lane being pregnant. Never would have thought of it.
Question comes to my mind. If a police officer stops a woman driving down an HOV by herself, is he required to ask her if she's pregnant? And if he does, can she say, well, I'm considering it?
And she may go on to say, are you available?
Well, and I was going to say...
It depends on who the policeman is,
Right.
you know?
Well, and I was going to say, and how many times have men and women misconstrued somebody to be pregnant and they're not?
Well, how are you
So
going to...
can you imagine that bag of worms that will open up?
Well, I mean, you've also got the provision now that so many people are saying that men can get pregnant.
Right,
So
exactly.
Does that mean now that I can drive down there, drive the HOV?
They have the potential.
Only if you can get a healthcare professional to submit an affidavit to the Department of Transportation indicating that you are in fact pregnant.
Yep, and maybe you can put a pillow under.
Yeah, well...
Okay, folks.
That's that one.
House Bill HB 2376, short title, Agricultural Land, Foreign Ownership Prohibition. This bill was introduced by Representative Biasucki, and it prohibits the selling, leasing, or subleasing of agricultural state land to a foreign entity. And as far as it goes, actually, this is not a bad bill. This does not fall into the category of those silly bills so much. My problem with it is that it should also apply to private lands, not just state lands. And that's not clear from the bill itself. It appears that it's only the leasing or subleasing of agricultural state land. And of course, as we all know, or should know, there's state trust lands that are used to finance education, and they derive an income, and the income that they derive is mostly because of leasing it for cattle or farming or whatever. Okay, there is a good reason for not having foreign nationals do this, but it should apply not just to the state lands; they should apply to private lands as well. That's my take on it.
And I agree with you. I like the bill, but it doesn't go far enough. So I agree.
Well, just to give people a little bit of an indication of what's going on here, for years over in I think it's the San Joaquin Valley in California, Saudi Arabia has owned thousands of acres of land over there, and they farm it.
I didn't realize that.
They farm it, and when they harvest the produce, they carry the produce directly to a ship on, I think it's the Sacramento River. They put it on a ship, and it leaves and goes directly to Saudi Arabia and never comes into the American commerce. It's just, they're using our land to provide food for their own people, but we never get to see any of it. And that's kind of what this is directed to. But the other thing is that so many foreign governments are coming in here and they are buying up not only our farmland, but they're buying up they're buying up businesses, they're buying up homes, they're buying up everything. Now, as far as this goes, and this talks about agricultural land, and what it says is that a foreign government or a foreign entity, but they don't describe or define what a foreign entity is. And if you've been following our border these days, we're beginning to find out that many Chinese nationals are now coming across the border. There is absolutely nothing to prevent one of those Chinese nationals from going out under this bill to go out and buy your farm and then operate it pursuant to what China tells them to do. So to me, this is inconsistent with that. It needs to go further, and it needs to provide that, a government entity also includes a private citizen buying for the use of a foreign government.
So the consensus is that this is actually a fairly good bill. It's just that it doesn't go far enough.
Correct.
Right.
All right.
We're all in favor.
House Bill HB 2395. Short title, Repeal Individual Income Tax. This bill was introduced by Representative Smith, and that it repeals, this doesn't mean anything to anyone, but it's Title 43, Chapter 10, which deals with Arizona revised statutes that deals with individual income tax. Now, for people who think that taxes should be as low as possible, and whenever possible, non-existent, this sounds like a really good idea. I mean, what could be better than you and I not having to pay any state income tax? The problem is that when you repeal that title, then how does the lost income, how is that lost income made up?
Well, and I think with this bill, though, it's for the Legislative Council to prepare. So I think that maybe hearing this, when they do prepare a bill, that they will have that factored in, how to make up for what we're going to lose.
Yeah,
And I'm
but
curious as to what somebody like what a state like Florida does, because I don't believe they have the state income tax.
Well, most of the states that do not have income tax make it up some other way. It's not a tax reduction; it's a tax shifting.
Right.
So they have higher property tax, higher sales tax. They make it up somehow. So if this is just a reduction in government, it will be a reduction in both the tax and the government intrusion into people's lives. It would be a good thing.
Which here in Arizona, we do have, our property taxes are really, I think, fair. I know a lot of people complain about them and nobody wants to pay them, but relative to other states, I think we're pretty good. So we don't want them to go up.
And our state income tax is not that high either.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty low, especially after this tax reform that happened last year. So.
Well, according to the Legislative Council, in the year 2024, this will cost the state $5.91 billion. In 25, it'll be $6.11 billion. And in 26, it'll be $6.37 billion, and it goes up every year after that. Mm-hmm. Now, if my recollection is correct, the state budget income is somewhere around $12 billion. So this is going to do away with 50% of the revenue from the state. That in and of itself maybe would not be so terribly bad, because they could shift it over to real property. But understand, last week we covered a bill which said that if you own your home unencumbered as your primary residence, it will be free of real property taxes. Now where's the income going to come from? Right? So, I mean, you have to, you can't look at these bills just independently on themselves. You have to look at other bills that they affect also. So we could have a major problem with this, but I'll tell you, I don't want to pay state income taxes. I don't want to pay federal income taxes. So,
You don't?
No.
I
I don't want to pay any income taxes. I think I'm going to move to China and buy property in Arizona.
Okay, so it's the consensus, I guess, is that even though we like the idea of low taxes, the fact that they're going to have to make up the revenue somewhere else makes it not such an attractive proposition.
I'm concerned that they're going to impose it on businesses. And, I mean, they Arizona Commerce is really big on trying to bring businesses in.
Right.
But now, is this going to kill that? Well, in my humble opinion, maybe it should at least slow it down. I think we're getting too many businesses coming in.
The bottom line is that anytime you're going to say that you're going to cut taxes, you have to have one of two things. Either the fact that it does not affect the overall budget, because sometimes when you lower taxes, you increase activity, and then revenues actually may even increase. But when you cut it down to zero, like you're doing here, then that does not apply. You are going to lose revenue. And where do you make up that revenue? So unless you have that within the bill, it's not a good bill. So.
Right.
That's my opinion.
House Bill HB 2261, short title, Birth Certificates, Sex Designation. This bill was introduced by a Democrat, Mr. Cano, it's Representative Cano, and it says very simply that a birth certificate shall include a field to indicate the person's sex as male, female, or intersex. So now we have male, female, and intersex. Now, it doesn't define what intersex is, okay? That's not defined by the bill, but it does say that a person or a person that's whose birth certificate they're doing could be indicated as intersex if a healthcare professional indicates that it is an intersex. But I still don't know. I still don't. Either one of you guys know what intersex is?
I think I understand it. It's kind of like streets, where they come together. That's intersection. That's intersex.
Now, I'm interpreting this as the hermaphrodites, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Hermaphrodite,
And,
yeah.
Yes, and those are children, babies who are born with both sexes, I guess.
Yeah, but
But there's so very few of them. It's 0.5% or something. This is just ridiculous. We have other fish to fry.
this is an indication. See, this is a perfectly serious bill introduced by a Democratic representative. And the good thing about this bill is that by bringing attention to it, you know what type of legislation would be enacted if we had, in addition to a Democrat governor that would sign these bills, if we would also have a Democrat legislature, because these bills would be actually voted forward.
Right.
And brought to the governor, and we know this governor would sign these bills in a hurry.
Yep.
Some of these bills that we're going over today, some of them are humorous, but all of them, I guess, have been introduced with a serious point of view by the person who is sponsoring the bill. But one thing for you as a member of the public to understand is that somebody behind this representative is pushing this bill. The question is who?
And why?
And why? Yes, but somebody is pushing this individual to introduce this bill. So this is not just something that come out of this
Just came out of
gentleman's
thin air.
wildest imagination. Somebody's pushing it. Somebody wants it done.
I don't know. Mr. Kennel may have a wild imagination. Who knows? I don't know him personally, so I don't know.
Well, this one is a waste of time and shouldn't even have been introduced.
House Bill HB 2241. Short title, Electric Vehicles Charging Pilot Program. This bill was introduced by Representative Aguilar. And it says very simply that let me read what it says. A municipality may not issue a residential structure permit for a single-family structure if the residential structure does not have and they describe
Voltage.
the outlet to charge an electric vehicle. In other words, if you want to add a shed or another an awning or something like that where you need a building permit, the only way that you can get that building permit is that if you either have or install an outlet to charge an electric vehicle. Now, this is a pet project of Democrats. It seems like it comes up every year. Definitely came up last year, and it didn't get anywhere, and apparently it's not getting anywhere this year either. But again, it's one of those things that why would a government force individuals to have this kind of electrical outlet, which is not cheap, by the way, and will not allow a building permit to do anything else unless they install this, and assuming, not everybody has an electric vehicle, okay? I guess they want everybody to have an electric vehicle.
Yes, they do.
This is just a one of those bills that all it does is promote some sort of I don't know.
Somebody's going to make money off of it.
Well, that too, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. It goes to a mindset that the government knows best,
Yes.
and they dictate things. It's a socialist type of thing. That's all there is to it.
Well, and then also, unless I read something wrong here, they also have exceptions to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
So a manufactured home. So does that mean that a manufactured home person may not have a electric vehicle?
Yeah, and also
So
says
this is just stupid.
Yeah, it also says if you don't have a driveway.
Right.
Yeah, but those are common sense. The whole idea behind requiring this sort of nonsense is just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Tear up your driveway and plant grass. No, I mean, this is really a serious bill, and we covered this last year, but this year it has a couple of extra things. Last year it did not require that you install basically a commercial electrical outlets. This year it does. Most of the houses, depending upon when they were built, only have 120 power outlets. This requires 204 to 240, which means you're going to have to totally rewire your house. So if you're just going to put in something that's going to cost you a couple of $100, and you have to have a building permit from it, now you're going to have to expend major money to update the electrical supply to your house. So that, otherwise, basically what this is doing is the state of Arizona is saying that you must install a electric vehicle charging station on your property. And guess who's going to be pushing this? Well, the ones that are going to be pushing this are going to be your solar panel people and your wind generating people. All right, they're behind this big time because it's going to be big bucks for them.
Right.
Government needs to stay out of your business.
I agree.
House Bill HB 2184. Subtitle, short title, Severe Threat of Order Protection. Anytime you hear that, that's a red flag, folks. But this was introduced by a Democrat, Representative Longdon. And basically what it does, it says that the juvenile court has exclusive original jurisdiction over all proceedings in which the respondent to a request for a severe threat order of protection is under 18 years of age. Now, if you only look at that, you say, makes perfectly good sense. If the person accused is under 18, then it makes sense that it would go to juvenile court, and this sounds like a good idea, right? Now you have to read a little further down the bill, and it's what 4 or 5 pages? This is a long.
This is a long bill.
Long. And it has a whole litany of things.
13 pages.
Yes.
13 pages of language that does away with your Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment rights of the Constitution, basically. Because by the time you boil down all 13 pages, it means only one thing, and that is that they can haul you to jail, or they can take your property without due process. That's basically what it does. And again, this is a Democrat bill. This bill would sail through the legislature if we had a Democrat majority, and it would most likely be signed by our fearless Democrat governor.
And this is the problem with the red flag laws. And in my opinion, I think that there does need to be some type of legislation written that makes sense, because I think a lot of these kids are falling through when all the signs are there. But this isn't this. This is just like you said, 13 pages.
Yeah, if they stopped at the first part where it says that the juvenile court has jurisdiction, I could live with that. Mm-hmm. But not only are they taking this severe threat of protection, but they're expanding it by 12 pages of language.
Right.
And that's extremely, extremely bad bill. It's not, I mean, we like to make fun of these bills, but it's really not funny. They're serious about this, folks.
Well, they start this off making you think that it relates to minors only, when in truth, in fact, after you start reading it and some of the other sections that they're amending, it applies to everyone.
Right.
It's not just to minors. And to me, the real problem with bills of this type has always been and will always be that if I decide that I want to, I feel that Jose has said something that is threatening to me, I personally can go to the court. Right. I can file a petition with the court, and I never have to give my name. They protect my identity, but then the police can come out, knock on his door, put handcuffs on him, stuff him in the car, and take him off for a psychiatric examination and confiscate any weapons that he may have. Now, the difference between this one and some of the other bills, that at least this bill provides, that the police must protect the weapons that they take into their possession and return them at some point in time when the order of a serious threat has been expunged or has been run its course. When it's no longer effective, it expires. Now, that is the only difference. But the major problem is that you can be charged by anybody for anything. And there is very little, if any, liability on their part. They do say that in the bill that if I make this challenge, and I know at the time I make the challenge that my challenge is false, then I'm guilty of a felony. But it's my perception, it's not your perception, and it's not the judge's perception. It's my perception, and that's dangerous. Well, this is a dangerous, dangerous bill.
And that's why a lot of these that have come in some other states have had, though some of them have passed in other states, the red flag laws are just, they're not thought out. And as you said, that if you're in a dorm room with somebody and kids are in a dorm room together and one doesn't like the other, they can start throwing around all kind of allegations. And this is just wrong. This needs to go away.
So we have agreement, all three of us think that this is a horrible, horrible
Yes.
bill. House Bill HB 2231, Early Absentee Voting, Limitations, Conflicts. This bill, I believe that this bill is still alive. It was introduced by Representative Harris, and it outlines the circumstances under which a qualified elector may vote an early absentee ballot. Essentially, what this bill does is that it does away with a mail-in, automatic mailing in of ballots. It goes back to the original premise that if you were not going to be able to be at the voting place, that you could vote ahead of time or by mail, but only under certain circumstances.
By absentee ballot.
Yeah, and it was called an absentee ballot, and this goes back to the absentee ballot. Now, I happen to believe personally that it's a good idea to go back to that absentee ballot because a lot of shenanigans and a lot of mischief happens with mailing ballots, okay? The problem is that the public in general, they're so enamored with this idea of mailing in the ballot that this will not fly well. If the Republicans succeed in getting this across, well, first of all, it would be vetoed by the governor anyway. But even if it wasn't, if we succeed in getting this across, they would pay a price at the polling place because people would not be happy with that course of events. So it may be a good idea, but it's not politically acceptable, really. That's my opinion on it.
And I agree with you, but and we should go back to just the absentee voting. But like you, the problem with society though today, we have gotten everything is just handed to us, and everything has just been so easy. And there's a part of me that, yes, I agree with you, but there's a part of me that says, you know what, we need to start having people accountable for what they actually believe and what they want to accomplish. And if they want to actually get good people in, the people for voting, the good people, the people who are really serious will go and vote and do what they need to do. If I explained that properly.
And there's one other point I would like to make, and that is that a lot of the problems that we now have with mailing ballots, okay, would have been fixed with a proposition that we had, a ballot measure that we had last election. And I believe it was Proposition 309, either 309 or 308, I forget which one it was. But it required an affidavit to be filled out as opposed to just having a signature on the envelope that you send in. Mm-hmm. Now, if we had passed that, it would have alleviated a lot of the concerns that people have about mailing ballots, and this proposal by Representative Harris would not even be all that necessary, okay? But the people did not approve that. They shut it down. I guess people are just afraid of having that, I don't know, they don't want that information being given or whatever. For whatever reason, they voted this down.
And I just have one other thing to say. In here, it makes the comment about the federal law would supersede anything on here. If you're going to write a bill, write one, do your research, and try to, in my opinion, never writing a bill, implement in here to protect yourself against, well, the federal law. Do you agree with that? If you're going to write a bill, you should know.
I agree with that up to a point, but I think that in this bill they made an attempt to make a provision to correct that, where that if any provision of this bill is found to be in conflict with federal law, then it is stricken out of the bill and the rest of it remains, or that the provision that violates federal law is automatically amended in this bill to comply with federal law. So I mean, I think they made
That's pretty much a standard language, isn't it?
No, it's not. I mean, they don't put that kind of language in almost anything. I mean, they
should.
They should, but they don't.
Yeah,
they should, but they don't. It's a way of avoiding a possible conflict with federal law. Now, I have a little bit of an uncertainty about this because the title of it is early absentee voting. Now, early voting, you can be on the permanent early voting list and know specifically that you're going to be sitting in your house on election day, that you're perfectly healthy, and there's nothing to prevent you from getting in your car and driving down to the precinct to vote. You just don't want to do it. This contains specific provisions about how you can and you cannot vote. So this basically indicates that if you're going to be absent from your precinct, then you can vote an absentee ballot. And it applies to people that's working for a company that's maybe overseas or in the military or something like that. That would apply to this bill. But this bill would not, in my humble opinion, apply to just the early voting, what is referred to as PEVL, or the permanent early voting list. That doesn't have anything to do with absentee at all.
Right, but the whole idea here is that we would do away with that automatic mailing in of the ballot. Only these absentee ballots will be approved, other than just going to your precinct and voting on election day.
If they're going to do away with mail-in ballots, except for absentees, I agree with that. But if this only deals with the absentee, then I mean, I think it's okay.
No, I'm pretty sure that the idea is to get away from the mail-in ballots automatically. So. House Bill HB 2352, short title, Lunch Debt Grant Program Schools. It's another Democrat bill introduced by Representative Contreras, and this is actually a pretty simple bill because it does something that it shouldn't be doing. What happens, folks, is that there is a student lunch program, and apparently, I am not that familiar with the program itself, but apparently there is a fee that's charged. A nominal fee is charged, but some parents either cannot afford or claim that they cannot afford, or just deadbeats. I don't know which, but they refuse to pay for those for that fee. So now you have a debt. You have an outstanding debt that these people are supposed to be paying. So what this bill does is that it creates a some kind of program where monies are raised, taxpayer money, to wipe out that debt. In other words, what they're doing is a backdoor subsidy or a backdoor welfare program, whereby you're giving something out without giving the appearance that you are. Because you're saying, no, you're paying for this. This is not a giveaway. You're paying for this lunch. But then when you don't pay, and most people given the option that won't pay anyway, then the taxpayer pays for it. Very bad, very bad. If it is worthwhile to have a free lunch where you have to pay nothing, absolutely nothing, then let's do it that way. Okay. This is a backdoor way of doing this, and it's sneaky, and I don't like it at all.
And I agree with you. And the sentence that stood up: a school district is not required to deposit grant monies received pursuant to this section in the school district school meal program fund.
Yeah, what that means is that they don't even have to pay for them.
Anyway, so that's my comment on this.
So what do they do with that money?
Yeah, what do they do with the money?
Believe me, they'll find a way. They'll find a way. They'll find something to do with that money.
This is how they'll pay for the income tax. Go ahead.
Well, this appropriates $2 million, okay, just for this current school year, 23-24, to pay for the lunches of individuals who cannot pay. I will tell you, my own personal belief is that if you're going to provide for this kind of thing, why don't you just provide for free lunches for everybody? Now, the problem with this one is that it provides not only for free lunches, but it provides for free breakfasts. And there is a town down on the U.S.-Mexican border down towards Yuma where they have, there's a town on the U.S. side and there's a town on the Mexican side. And it's students from Mexico walk across the border. They stand in front of vacant houses. The school bus picks them up. They go to school. They are fed breakfast. They are fed lunch. They are educated. And then the schools send them home with bags to provide for them for their meals over the weekend. This costs that school district something like, the last figure I saw was $400,000 a year. Just that one school district. And now you and I are going to be paying for that. And one of my big problems with almost all of these bills is where they, we are required, Arizona is required to educate people who step across the border illegally. And if they're school age, we have to educate them. We don't have any choice in that. Now we have to provide them with free meals, right? You and I as taxpayers. Now, there's another bill pending. Now, this is appropriation of tax. Now, there's another bill that's pending, which says that if I want to pay for the debt from a student that's in school, I can do that. I can contribute to that and pay that student's debt. Then I get to take that money off of my income for purposes of determining taxes. So, at some point in time, taxpayers are getting screwed no matter however they look at this. This is not a good bill.
House Bill HB 2246. Short title, Access, Eligibility, Immigration Status. This was introduced by a Democrat Representative De Los Santos, and it removes the immigration status from the conditions of eligibility for access. The way the laws read is that actually for any kind of government assistance, you must have what they refer to as a lawful presence in the state. Okay? Lawful presence means that if you are a foreign national, that you have a proper visa, you're allowed to be. You're not an illegal alien. In other words, access cost is not cheap. Okay, it costs a lot of money, to pay for health care. Okay, now, if this bill were to be approved, it would remove the immigration status. In other words, you can no longer ask if a person has a lawful presence here or not. Illegal aliens will be would have access to this health care. It's a terrible idea. Just another magnet for illegal immigration. Another reason to make it so that people would come over here illegally. And again, it's one of those bills that it's a favorite of the Democrats these days. And if the Democrats were to gain a majority in the legislature, this is the kind of bill that will be sent to the governor. And if we have a Democrat governor, you and I would be paying for this.
And I have to say, and you do say Democrat, but unfortunately there are so many Republicans that are falling for all of this also, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I just mentioned that the one that introduced the bill is a Democrat.
Right,
and it's not gaining much traction, by the way. It doesn't seem like it's going to be going anywhere.
Right.
But that's only because we have a majority of Republicans in the legislature. If we didn't, this bill will be sailing right through.
Right, and if you want to see the cost of everything continue to go up, not only do we just have the normal cost of living going up, we have all these freebies. This will do it. This will help with that. So I'm totally against this, another freebie.
Well, this kind of ties into a bill that came up last year. And we passed the bill last year, which gives the foreign consulate of the illegal national that's coming across our border the authority to establish that that person is here validly and has a residence in this state. So you see, we're giving up, slowly but surely, we're giving up all of our rights and all of our authority to foreign governments. And at some point in time, we need to stop this. And yes, this can be very, very expensive. Providing health care is not a cheap proposition in any event, and we as taxpayers are paying for it. And under this bill, we're now going to have to pay for the health care for people in this country illegally, and I don't like that.
Which we're already doing, but this just, I think, expands it and makes it legal, where I think that there's other ways that they're doing it, because granted, all of these illegals are getting all of our services, and unfortunately, our citizens are not getting the services. And I just, like I said, I think this one just makes it an easy way to continue on what they're doing, what they've been doing.
So, all three of us agree that this is a terrible bill. This brings to an end this week's edition of Arizona Bill Watch. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please make sure you tell your friends, relatives, and anyone else you know. And make sure you tune in next week for another fantastic edition of Arizona Bill Watch.
Arizona Bill Watch, the show where you get satisfaction if you're not getting it from your state legislators.